Now, time for the most in-depth look at the world of ECU athletics. Welcome in to Hoist the Colors with your host, Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game. Watch the show live on Facebook and at 943thegame.com. Now, here's your host, Stephen Igo.
Welcome in, Hoist the Colors, on this Thursday, October 24th edition of the program. We are on another day of the ongoing ECU coaching search, although how much is it really ongoing in season this early? I don't know. We'll discuss that and more. We also are 2 days away from an ECU football game. Pirates still have 5 football games left. Of course, Mike Houston let go as head coach. Blake Harrell moving forward as the interim coach. We'll discuss some of our thoughts going into Saturday. Philip Hilkinen producing. As always, we're going to be joined by Mark Yellock, former ECU defensive line coach, here shortly. And as always, we're live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. A couple of notes as we get started here. The show tomorrow, Friday, 12 noon, with Bobby Harward, we are planning to go for 2 hours. So it'll be our first 2-hour program. We'll go from 12 noon to 2 o'clock, and we'll have our usual, talk about the upcoming week in college football, NFL as well, and we'll make our picks. But we've got so much to discuss from a game standpoint, from a coaching standpoint. We'll have Bobby on. Our plan is to go 2 hours, so we'll talk to you for quite some time then. If you've got a question, comment, concern, drop it on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. All right, we've got Mark Yellock, former ECU defensive line coach, also former defensive lineman. He's been with us all season, breaking down the games. We'll talk a little ECU Temple, but first off, Coach, let's just get your reaction to the big news. Mike Houston being let go as head coach. What was your thoughts when you saw that on Sunday?
Yeah, well, first of all, let's say 2 hours. A 2-hour talk with Bobby.
Yeah, we got a lot to discuss. We might need you, Coach.
I feel kind of jealous right now.
Hey, come by the studio. We'll get you on.
No, first thought was that's the reason why it's a sad day in Pirate Nation, because usually when there's a firing of a coach, there's it's a sense of disappointment, a sense of failure, not just from the fans, but from just the program itself. Not attaining the goals and wins and just the things. And, it's just a lot of uncertainty, for everybody involved. Because I've been on that side of the deal. I was there when they fired Ruff. I can remember it to this day. I can remember the day. I can remember where I was at. I can remember the whole deal. And it's not good, because the uncertainty it transpires not just through the fan base, but also goes through the coaches and their families, the support staff, and the people I feel for is the young coaches that they have. Some of the guys who are just now getting started and trying to get into this profession, and they'll quickly get an understanding of how this profession is, but it's tough. It's tough all for everybody involved.
Mark Yellock with us, former ECU defensive line coach and the former ECU defensive lineman. Yeah, before we move into the candidates and where ECU goes from here, coaches, where do you feel like it with Coach Houston? I mean, it's not like he didn't have success. Obviously, back-to-back bowl seasons to break a streak of a long drought without those bowls appearances, and he had some big wins at BYU, over UCF. Also, knocked off Memphis a couple of times. So I don't know, is there something you can put your finger on? Is it just one of those situations where, for whatever reason, they can never get the ball rolling and keep it going?
Well, it's just like anything else, you got to have the quarterback in order to do some things, and they couldn't find the guy that could be able to consistently do it. But I also think that we can finally. I think for ECU as a whole, we just need to find out what do we expect out of our programs, other than, we want them to win, don't get me wrong. But for what we're seeing now, and maybe that's the president, that's the, whatever, however you say it, that's the bar, is that you can't go 0-7 in in-state games. You can't go 0-7. You can't have ugly losses to Charlotte. You can't have ugly losses to App. You can't have ugly losses to Kings. I'm not saying, I guess we're saying that we're not expecting you to, well, we want to be in the plus realm with in-state schools, but you have to win some of those. I think maybe that's what the fan base and that's maybe what the administration is trying, and the donors and everybody's trying to say. I guess that's kind of how it flows, because the most criticism he's gotten was losing to those in-state schools like that, and I think that's maybe the bar that they're trying to set.
Mark Yellock with us, former ECU defensive line coach, and a lot of names being thrown out there, Coach Yellock, with ECU ties. How important is that? I mean, you're an ECU guy, you've coached, you played here, so is that a necessity, or is that just, I don't know, fans looking for comfort?
Well, I said, let me say this, because ECU, I guess again, you are talking to an alumni person, so of course this is a special place to me. This program has taken me, this program has taken me since I was 18 years old, and I've had a lot of adventures and things with it. So it's shaped me in the sense of who I am right now, in the sense, right? So of course this is going to be, I say that to say this is going to be the lead to this. Historically, this program, and again, I'm kind of going back to the previous question. I am going to answer the question you're asking here. But historically, the program has been, if you look at it, the success of this program is happened with innovative offenses. And I'm not saying they got to be just innovative. Steve Loken, his offense was innovative at the time. He had a lot of pieces that normally a lot of teams were not doing at the time. And it's funny how each of the coaches we deemed to have some type of success, they had a theme. Like Logan, I think we had a chip on our shoulders. Especially, and we worked hard. So, and we had pride in the school. We didn't lose to in-state schools. We just had pride. All right. Skip Holtz, he brought back the pride, but those kids had swagger, because they was, with John Thompson going 1-11 and 2-10 and getting fired, those kids were beat down. And Skip Holtz came in and brought the pride back up, made everybody learn the fight song, because I was there. That's the reason why I can speak from experience. He brought back the fight song. He brought back certain things that they're still doing now, and they brought back a swagger. Those kids had swagger going to those championship games. Those guys had swagger beating Boise State in Hawaii. So they had swagger. Ruff brought back family, and he also brought back pride. I put Ruff in that deal too, because that coach had 9 wins. And again, I'm biased because I was on that staff, but we did have 9 wins and 8 wins and went to bowl games. He brought back family and pride, and we had some success there, and we beat in-state schools also. So the next person who is becoming the coach at ECU, they need to have those type of characteristics. It may not necessarily have to be those terms, but they have to bring something of a pride, swagger, innovative offense, hard work, being able to develop kids, because that's still the case here at this school. You have to develop kids and technique and get these kids ready to play. It's always been the fabric of this program ever since that I can be there. No matter what the new wave of portals and everything else, you still got to be able to develop kids. So hopefully I ain't trying to go too far off, and hopefully I answer your question on that.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think it's one of those things, Mark. It's like, all right, yeah, obviously getting an ECU alum, an ECU guy would be great, or somebody with ties. But I agree, it's not like Skip Holtz was an ECU guy. I know Logan was the OC when he got promoted. So I guess it's just more
but
about –
he wasn't an alum. He wasn't an alum.
Yeah, you got to have
here.
a vision,
Exactly. You have to have the core of all of those guys right there. And I can say this because I was involved with every last one of them, and that's the reason why I can speak for this. And I was with John Thompson too. So I can speak in that sense. It's funny, I went back and looked at it. From the last 6 coaches here at the school, I was there for 4 of them. So, I've been involved with 4 of these coaches. So my point of the matter is that the common thread between Logan, Skip, and Ruff is they knew how to develop players. They developed we had Shane Carton and Justin Hardy and Isaiah Jones you can keep going on throughout all the other people that's going through with Skip Holtz and those guys too. They develop these young men in order to be household names that everybody in this program knows for forever, you know? And that's what needs to happen. You know, that's what needs to happen with this next guy. He needs to be able to do that. Yes, you have Portal, but it's still, this fabric is to be able to develop kids and be able to win games and have pride in the school and win these in-state games.
No doubt, 0-7 for Mike Houston against in-state schools, and had some close calls against NC State, Charlotte last year, App State this year, and not winning any of those, I think, played a big role in this decision. Mark Yellock with us here, former ECU D-line coach, and a couple of coaches being thrown around, pretty well. I just want to get your thoughts. And look, I mean, it's very early in the process. You're in season. I think this is going to be a slower hiring process, but we know some guys with ECU ties. Joe Sloan, the LSU OC, played under Skip. Garrett Riley has been mentioned. Obviously was on the same staff as you offensively, under Ruff McNeil. And then Dwayne Ledford as well, who you played with. So when you hear those three guys tossed around, what are some of your thoughts?
Very, very credible guys to be able to run the program. I think all of them have grown and went through the toils and strives. I know Sloan was with Skip at La Tech and learned a lot through him in those fashions, and they won a lot of good games. We played them pretty well. There was always a tough battle when I was at North Texas going against those guys at La Tech. With Skip was in the realm, and I just think that he's ready. I mean, you see what he's doing at a bigger stage at Louisiana, LSU. So I think he's ready. Dwayne has always been a real good coach from his days from Gardner-Webb to App State to Louisville to NFL. So he's got all of them have resumes. And Garrett Riley, everybody keeps on thinking that he's Lincoln's brother. He's Lincoln's brother, but that guy, he was coaching Division II ball before he even became a GA. So this guy, it wasn't gifted to him. He worked his tail off in order to get to where he's at now too. So I think that all of them are very, very, and they know the fabric of the school too, and that's also an important factor. All three of them do.
Mark Yellock with us. How much do you put into the notion of typically when, let's say a coach is fired, Mike Houston in this case, he was a defensive-minded coach. He came from the FCS ranks. Like typically you always see the AD or the administration go in the opposite direction, which would lead to, a young offensive-minded guy, which, kind of fits all three of those guys. Not only are they ECU people, but do you kind of believe in that philosophy or theory, or is it still, do you feel like John Gilbert, ECU's administration, will end up hiring the right guy, even if it's a defensive-minded coach? Like, I don't know. Am I putting too much stock in that?
Well, I just think I think that's you just need to get a guy who can be able to it's kind of hard to kind of say offensive-minded coach and everything else. You get caught up in that, and you never really you want to get a good leader. You want to get somebody who can be able to go with the fabric of what you want out of the program. So I think first, the administration needs to identify, if they have not already, identify what they want from this program and what direction they want this program to be in. If they want this program to be a portal, happy, whatever, then that's the type of coach you get. If you want this to be a high-flying offense, no matter if it's a defensive or offensive coach, that has to be part of what that coach brings to the table. So I don't get caught up in the offensive, defensive aspects of it because, if you look through it, if there was only one type of coach that can coach, if there was always offensive coaches that were always winning, then every school in America would have all offensive coaches. Nick Saban's a defensive coach. He's won how many national championships? You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't matter. It just goes with what the program administration-wise wants with the program and how it guides. You have a good leader, you can roll with it. Yes, I said in my initial statement that innovative offense is important. Ruff was a defensive guy, and he got Lincoln Riley, which is the innovative offense. You see what I'm saying? So it's all about the totality of what that coach can bring to the program.
Mark Yellock with us. A few more things with you, Coach. We'll get you out of here. So we talked a lot about the coaching search. Kind of a unique situation. 5 games left for Blake Harrell. And look, I mean, if they go 4-1, 5-0 down the stretch, I mean, I think he becomes a viable candidate as well. And I think he's a very good players coach. I think he's got the locker room in a pretty good space, all things considered. But how tough is this challenge right now for the guys still coaching? And have you ever been through anything as a coach similar to this in season?
Well, not as a assistant coach, GA, yes, with John Thompson. But here's the problem, and here's the thing that people don't has that there's the portal, and he's going to it's a tougher road compared to what it's been in the past, because now there's a lot of uncertainty. I said this earlier in the program itself. See, these guys don't know if Coach Harrell's going to get the job or not. I mean, they don't, and the coaches don't know if they're going to get the job. So everybody right now is protecting themselves. They will talk about team, but really it's team. But I better make sure that I protect myself. What I mean by protecting myself, that means that, hey, I got to get this film out. I got to get some snaps. So if I'm a player, I'm gonna, I got to make sure that if it doesn't work out with this next coach, I got some film that I can go to the next spot. I don't know who this coach is going to be. You know what I'm saying? We're hoping it's Blake Harrell if I was an existing player, but that's not a given, right? So you got to protect the coaches. They don't know if they're going to be retained or not. Most likely they're not, unless Blake Harrell gets it, and even then, they don't know if they're going to get retained. So you got to make sure. So you got to protect yourself, and you got to protect your family. And the only people that's going to really play really hard is the seniors, the true seniors. I say the true seniors. I'm talking about the ones who've been there 3 or 4 or 5 years. Those are the guys that are really going to play hard, and they're going to listen to the coaches, and they're going to do whatever they want to do, because this may be their last time and last go around. So and again, I'm not saying that he doesn't have the locker room, but he's going to have to juggle through those gymnastics of circumstances, because it's different than it was when I was playing, and if you transfer, you had to sit out a year. And that deters you from transferring. Now you can transfer right now. You can jump in the portal right now and be like, "Look, I'm done." Especially if you're a young guy, if all the above. So that it's a tough road ahead, and the uncertainty type deal is going to be hard. And like I said before, like how you can play for the seniors. That's what they're going to say. Hey, let's play for the seniors. Well, it's not. It doesn't hold weight like it used to, because some of these seniors have only been here for months compared to years. When I was playing, freaking Marcus Crandall was there for years, so I looked up to him. Because I had tons of respect for him. Rod Coleman, tons of respect for him. But do that young person have that same respect from a guy who's just only been there as long as they've been there? So it's a different game than it has been in the past.
Kind of going off that, last thing for you, Coach Yellock, is, look, you've been a coach in season, and I'm sure, at times, whether you see it coming or not, I mean, these conversations are always going on behind the scenes. Like, let's say you're Garrett Riley or you're Joe Sloan, and you see the ECU coaching opening come open. How do those guys handle it from their perspective? They're fighting for a spot in a playoff game, or to get into the college football playoff, but also, you got to look around and see what's available too for your future. So how do you balance that as a coach, regardless of your position in season, if you see something like that happen?
Well, that's the reason why all those guys got agents. It's an agent-driven league. Assistant coaches have it. I'm sure all of those guys that you mentioned there have agents, and their agents are doing the legwork for them as they're preparing to go through their seasons and everything else. Their agents know what their clients want, and their agents are in touch with the ADs and in touch with powerful people within whatever schools that are out there, and those agents are handling some of the situations, right now. And they're relaying messages, and they may have they may be on the phone with a couple of ADs and stuff like that, but for the most part, their agents are really helping them out tremendously in this case, because you can be hot now. Let's be real. Let Joe Sloan lose the rest of his games. Let LSU go on a slump and lose. He's not going to be there anymore. Same thing with Garrett Riley, or and I'm not talking negative about it, but it's just so much into it. So to answer your question, I think for the most part, I think the agents are involved.
No doubt, it is a crazy business. Coach Yellock, as always, appreciate your insight. You've been in it firsthand and your passion as an alum. So we'll get you on again next week, man, and should be an interesting few months ahead.
Yeah, it should be. Still and always go Pirate.
No doubt. There's Mark Yellock, former ECU D-line coach and defensive lineman. Great passion with the program. Need to get him back on the sidelines. Maybe we can make that happen this coming year. We'll see. All right, that is Mark Yellock. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We will address your comments. We got some on the YouTube chat we need to get to. We'll do that. We'll also look around the American, see what's happening with the conference race. Continue to discuss some names in the coaching search. So drop your question, comment in the YouTube chat as well as Facebook. This is Hoist the Colors on a Thursday.
Acre Station Meat Farm, along with Lane Angus Beef, bring you Farm to Fork Beef.
Stock your freezers now with affordable beef boxes, just in time for the grilling season.
Farm to Fork Beef brings quality local beef to your family. From your traditional butcher shop, Acre Station Meat Farm. Come on down to Acre Station Meat Farm and find out why we're #1 in fresh cuts and friendly service.
Acre Station Meat Farm, Highway 32 North, Pinetown.
Living easy is the sound of children laughing as you make memories with neighbors and friends. It's the sound of nothing at all. It's the smell of the salt air. Hear the waters against the marsh grass. See the beauty of our coast. Bow Coast, located in Beaufort, North Carolina. Southern Living's best small town.
Other restaurants claim their food is fresh and fast, but are they friendly? At Moore's, you're treated like family the minute you walk into their doors. With locations in Winterville, New Bern, Swansboro, Morehead City, and Jacksonville. We've been practicing what we preach since 1945. At Moore's, our barbecue is slow cooked and smoked over real wood daily until it's so tender it's falling off the bone. Combined with our fresh chicken, cooked-to-order seafood, and homemade fixins, we're sure you'll agree. If it's not Moore's, it's less.
Sawyer's Fun Park in Winterville is now open. With over 40,000 square feet of family fun, daily money-saving deals, and a full-service restaurant, Sawyer's Fun Park is guaranteed to have something the whole family will love. Test your ninja skills on our 2-story obstacle course or head over to one of our 5 rock walls and race your friends to the top. And when you've worked up an appetite in our laser tag arena or our one-of-a-kind ropes course, grab a table over at the restaurant and try our world-famous Southern Monster Fries. Reserve your spot today at SawyersFunPark.com and come join in on the fun.
This is about you, your family, and the health of all who live in Eastern North Carolina. This is about the transformation of a health system into something more powerful and more human. About creating new ways to treat disease and keep you well. This is about ECU Health, which is to say, it's really all about you. ECU Health. Minds, hearts, purpose.
Every ECU fan's one stop for all things ECU athletics. This is Hoist the Colors with Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game.
All right, welcome back in. Hoist the Colors here on this Thursday, October 24th edition. We're going to get to some of your comments. Philip Hilkenden producing. Philip did a great job. We've had some technical issues. We use a software program when I broadcast remote, and Philip had to work through that. So we saw your comments about Coach Yellock being too low with the volume to begin with. So, Philip, good job getting that fixed mid-flight there.
Appreciate it, and I should be at the same level as Coach Yellock, so fingers crossed because we're both coming through the same place. So hopefully I'm good, and hopefully we're at about the same levels. But yeah.
Yeah, if not, let us know in the comments section, and we'll make that adjustment. But I think it is much better now. All right, we'll have a short segment here. We went a little long with Coach Yellock, but what did you think, Philip, as listening to that as an alum? I know you were trying to figure some stuff out, but his thoughts about whether it's an ECU guy or not, you need somebody with a vision, a plan, kind of not saying Coach Houston didn't have one, but clearly whatever he tried to implement long-term didn't work out. So what was your take on the ECU alums' comments on where ECU goes from here?
One of the interesting things that I want to hone in on, and it's something we don't think about in the portal era, but it was the development of players. And if you look at the majority of the ECU starters right now, even the guys who are transfers, a lot of them have been here at least 2 seasons. Now, there are a few exceptions to the rule, but for the most part, the guys who are playing, offensive line, even Dustin Hall's been here for 2 years. Parker Moore's been here a while, and you go down the list and you look at the running backs, obviously, and you do have to develop players. And looking at another sport, that was kind of the reason that Roy Williams was so successful in his time at Carolina, even though he didn't know when to call timeout, but his ability to develop players, those 4- and 5-year guys, were so effective, even though they didn't land the 5-star recruits. So that's something that I think that he really brought up. And yes, sometimes you're developing them to sell them off to somebody else in the portal, but at the end of the day, you're going to have guys for 2 and 3 years, some of the guys which you recruit, some of the guys you pick up via the portal after their freshman or sophomore year. At the end of the day, if you don't develop them and they don't get better, you're not going to have a successful football team.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's one of those things. You're going to lose players. I don't care where you are. You're going to lose players, but that doesn't mean you should stop recruiting and developing talent. I mean, you're going to still have that as the backbone of your program. You might lose a star. You might lose 3 stars, but you got to find a way to keep developing talent. All right, if the Pirates win out, John Decker wants to know, would we hire Blake Harrell? I think, excuse me, I think you got to, Philip. If he wins out, how do you not hire
him? Yeah, I mean, I agree. The tough thing is going to be is before he gets the opportunity to win out, do we already have another coach in place? That's going to be the weird spot. But yeah, heck yeah, if he wins out, if this season we're 3 and 4 right now, if we end up 9 and 4. And now, obviously, the decision will be made before the bowl game, so it would be 8 and 4, I guess, when the decision's made. Then, yeah. Now, I'm not going to lie, I'm biased. I love Blake Harrell, not only as a coach, but as a person, because, like I was talking about yesterday on the show, the Blake Harrell you see at the podium is the Blake Harrell that you meet at tiebreakers, and it's the Blake Harrell that the coaches know. So, yeah, I'll admit I'm a little biased towards Blake, but on top of that, yeah, heck, look at what's going on in Boise State right now. They had an interim, he won out, and look, if they beat UNLV Friday night, especially with Liberty's loss yesterday, all roads probably lead to the college football playoff for those guys.
Tall task to win out. And as Coach Yellock mentioned, you got so many people, while they're in it for the team, are going to also look out for themselves at a time like this, behind the scenes. So it's easier said than done. I mean, I guess it's not really easy said even to go win out, but that would be a monumental task, and if he accomplishes that feat, that would show a ton about Blake Harrell as a leader. So we'll see. Again, one game at a time, Temple this Saturday at 2 o'clock. All right, Matthew with a fair point here. He says, as much as we don't want to talk bad about Mike Houston, we need to figure out specifically why he didn't win. Was it game management, game plan, recruiting, etc.? I do think we lost some games by poor end-of-game management with timeout/play calling, but I think the glaring issue was recruiting. Our kids usually only had low FBS offers or FCS, is what Matthew says. I think a combination, and we've kind of hit on this a little bit, Philip. We can go a little more in depth here before taking a break. It's one of those things. Covering recruiting, I would say the recruiting was solid but not spectacular. I think specifically where they missed was offensive line. They missed on so many guys. Several of those guys had very few offers. Now, look, you're not going to land high-level 3-star players on the offensive line. Those guys are going to the Power 5. But you have got to be able to search high and low for any type of lineman you can find that can move and that has length and that can add weight. They have a few of those guys in the program now that are pretty young, but just had not recruited enough quality linemen. So they have been bad up front for years now. Too many misses, quite simple. And then the other big one, the quarterback. I mean, you look at the quarterbacks ECU recruited under Mike Houston. Walter Simmons, excuse me, he was an athlete. I think he transferred to Bethune-Cookman. You had a couple other guys who
Ryan Stubblefield
did not pan out. Stubblefield, Mason Garcia, Tajee Hudson, another athlete. So quarterback, Phillip, was just a huge glaring weak point as far as recruiting and offensive line.
It's weird when you pair those two together. It's rough because North Texas does not have a good offensive line, but their quarterback's out there slinging the football around. They're scoring 40-some-odd points a game. I don't know what their actual average is, but every time I look up, it looks like that's about how many they've scored. So, yeah, I think when you have a combination of those two, you can say the recruiting. I know that I wish they would recruited the state of North Carolina a little more because, Mark kind of hit on it. Or was it Mark? No, it was Doug Martin that hit on it yesterday on Patrick's show where he was talking about, back in the day, you didn't have to worry about Charlotte and App and ODU. Those places didn't have teams. You got everyone that Duke, Carolina State, and Wake didn't grab. Now, unfortunately, it seems like there's some kids that are going to those schools that we're not even offering, and they're going to those schools and they're being successful. So I think there was a little bit of lackluster recruiting within the state of North Carolina. And then to your point, yeah, when your offensive line hasn't really panned out, it seems like every year it's like, well, we've got 4 or 5 good ones, but the minute somebody gets hurt, we're kind of hosed. And on top of that, like I said, the last true starting quarterback here has been Holton Ahlers. Well, that was 2 years ago. And, again, that was not recruited by Mike Houston.
Yeah, just too many recruiting misses and not enough development either way. There's key positions, and that, I think, is your big issue. Clock management, I think, played a role. Matthew, I think there were some games, some situations you can look at where it may have cost ECU a win or two, but I think at the end of the day, if you got a better quarterback, better players, it doesn't even become an issue, and you have a much better record.
Well,
right,
we were kind of
breaking.
Sorry, I know you. I just want to hit one thing when you said clock management. We kind of talked about it before the show yesterday. We only won a handful of one-possession games here. That was kind of there was some, like Charleston Southern was technically a one-possession game, and some ODU this past year. But like the ones that came down to the final play, it seems like we were like 4-10 under Mike Houston. I don't know the exact number, but it wasn't a good number.
Yeah, NC State, obviously, you missed the kick, but you could have been more aggressive there, trying to get closer to the field goal range with a guy who just missed an extra point. That's been well discussed. The South Carolina game, that one you should have won. They threw the pick six right before halftime. You did have the close wins against Memphis. You had the close win at Navy, but you had BYU. BYU as well. So, you had some in that 20-21-22 range, but you also had a lot of close losses at Cincinnati. Cincinnati at home, the year they could have upsetted them. So, you could go back and look. There's a lot of one-score losses that if they go the other way, Mike Houston's probably coaching right now. App State this year. So, there's just a lot of those situations. All right, let's go get a break, and we'll come back. We'll talk about the race in the American Conference a little bit. We'll continue also to answer your questions. Continue to drop those on Coaching Search. Rest of the season, your thoughts. We'll share them. This is Hoist the Colors.
Hi, I'm D.R. Alligood.
And I'm his daughter, Jessica.
For 11 years, we have built quality driveways and parking lots for both your residential and commercial needs. We also offer free on-site quotes to have your custom driveways built the way you want.
252-946-1227.
Looking for a great deal on a new Nissan?
At Greenville Nissan, we've got a great selection of new Nissans for under $30,000.
The stylish Nissan Sentra, offering top-notch fuel economy. The Nissan Altima, known for its comfort and technology.
The Nissan Kicks, the perfect combination with its compact design and performance. The Nissan Versa, delivering incredible value without compromising on features. And don't forget the Nissan Rogue, an award winner for 10 years in a row. Drive it home just for $22 down and $349 a month.
Visit GreenvilleNissan.com today.
Greenville Nissan, where we drive to serve.
big tax credits are back. Get a 30% tax credit, up to $2,000 off your new Mitsubishi electric heat pump install. Let Comfort Master help you take advantage of the tax credits with a qualifying Mitsubishi electric ducted heat pump or non-ducted Mitsubishi electric mini splits. Mitsubishi electric mini splits are ideal for bonus rooms, garages, or sunrooms. If you need a new HVAC unit, call Comfort Master today.
Call Comfort Master. Call Comfort Master.
The best burgers around. Everyone loves a thick, juicy, and fresh burger. Tiebreakers does real burgers better than anybody. And don't forget about the cheese sticks, fresh salads, and more. So don't just go to any burger-themed restaurant chain. It's time to break the chain and eat local. Tiebreakers, burgers and sports at its best.
Go Pirates! Arrgh!
You know what the problem is with standard belts? Usually you have to choose between too tight or the opposite, too loose. But with Anson Belt and Buckle, you don't have to choose. We got rid of the holes and instead have a track system designed for micro-adjustability. That way you can enjoy a perfect fit every time. Anson Belt and Buckle. Find your perfect fit today.
Hi, I'm D.R. Alligood.
And I'm his daughter, Jessica.
For 11 years, we have built quality driveways and parking lots for both your residential and commercial needs. We also offer free on-site quotes to have your custom driveways built the way you want.
252-946-1227.
Your confidence makes everything look good. You see the world in vivid color, not black and white. Swing through your neighborhood Fantastic Sam's cut in color. And let our experienced stylists take you from everyday to extraordinary.
Fantastic Sam's hair salons are locally owned and operated. Our full-service salons are conveniently located in Goldsboro, Kinston, Greenville, New Bern, Jacksonville, and Calabash. Stop in today at Fantastic Sam's, where the possibilities are endless.
World of ECU athletics. This is Hoist the Colors with Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game.
All right, welcome back in. Hoist the Colors. Thursday, October 24th. Philip Hilkinen with us. We talked to Mark Yellock earlier. You can check that out. Archived on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast as well. That'll be up after the show. All right, we got a lot of comments to get through. John Moody says, so are we going 2 hours on Friday? Are we 100% confirmed for 2 hours tomorrow, Philip?
Hank said yes, so then I went in and talked to Dylan, and he has changed the log, so now there's no going back. We are doing 2 hours on Friday, or there will be an hour of dead air, and we're all getting fired.
All right, well, I don't know if we're getting paid overtime for this, but screw it. Let's do it.
I'm salary, so you got to work that out with the powers that be.
I do get paid per show, for the record. Don't know if I'm getting extra. I don't really care, to be honest. We got so much to talk about. I mean, we're going to kill those 2 hours.
Half the stuff, and I'm not bagging on you because we've got everything we've talked about. I've wanted to get to. We've not got to half the stuff this week we need to get to. Like, have we even talked about Temple?
I mean, very, very little. We had a vibe check yesterday. That was it.
That's right. I came in one day and I was like, "Who are we playing this weekend?" You're like, "Temple." I was like, "Oh yeah, didn't know."
The real question is, do we need to talk about Temple? I mean, no disrespect to the Owls, but. Come on.
You know, kind of talking to Doug about him yesterday on Patrick's show, you know, they run a lot of man coverage, and when Caton had most of his success, it was against kind of a soft zone. So, yeah, I think we do. How are we going to be successful throwing the football against a team that actually runs man pretty well despite having a 2-5 record? So I'm going to go yes.
We saw UTSA employ a lot of man, and it was good at times for Jake Garcia. You know, bad at other times, so we'll maybe break that down tomorrow in our 2-hour special. All right. Matthew said, thanks for answering the questions. So we appreciate you tuning in. Tony says, my 2 cents, like it or not, it's fun to look at who could be the next head coach, but that's out of our hands. My Christmas wish is winning at least 6 games this season and going to a bowl. He says, I hate December and ECU and no bowl games, and I could care less what bowl it is right now. It would be a very odd dynamic. We also talked about this, Philip, about if ECU wins 6, but like there's a new head coach in place. It would be kind of fun though to like still be able to cover a bowl game, mainly for these seniors, man. Like Deontay Johnson, Elijah Morris, Mike Edwards, Surad Ware, Dustin Hall, Parker Moore, Rajay Harris, Winston Wright, obviously as a transfer. I mean, how cool would it be to give these guys one final run at it, no matter what the coaching situation is?
Oh, it would be wonderful. And, the lead up to the bowl game is so much fun. And, everybody talks about nowadays with so many bowls, the bowls mean less. And they kind of do. But I think the fact that they mean the meaning less of the game makes it honestly kind of more fun for the players. Like, yes, they want to win. Yes, they go out, they want to go out with a victory. But I just remember, whether it be Jeremy Lewis, Miles Berry, Holton Ahlers, their vibe going into those bowl games, man, when we talked to them middle of the week, they were just so excited to go. They were so appreciative. It was fun. They wanted to win, but they were ready to do the whole experience of the bowl game. They were going to worry about winning and losing kind of when they got there. At the end of the day, they were going. It was fun, and I want to have that with Rajay, Big Tay, all those guys you mentioned. But, look, this senior class in this era of transfer portal, there's a lot of guys who've been here the whole time. This class really stuck together, and yeah, maybe it's not as known of a class because there's no, NFL day 2 picks walking around like there has been some of the other years. But, hey, you know what? They've still worked hard. They've stuck through thick and thin, and there are a lot of good young men in that room that are going to go on to do wonderful things outside football, and I want to see them get one more game.
No doubt, it would be awesome, and hopefully the Pirates can make that happen starting Saturday against Temple. Robert, and I'm not sure exactly what he's referencing here, Philip. I'll read the question, and I'll see if you can answer it. He says, Pilk, thoughts on hiring coaches that exclusively look for replacement talent from every level per Logan? Do you know what he's asking? I guess something Steve Logan brought up. He says, hiring coaches that exclusively look for replacement talent from every level.
I think he's saying, when you have a group of guys, you're constantly looking at every level to, he talks about how at the NFL, how you have scouts for college that are constantly looking at every collegiate player at every position, and they have a board, and how you're looking at other NFL teams and every guy on their practice squad and all that, and you have a board in case someone goes down. So I think he's saying, guys who are not where you have, I think is what he's saying, is you have guys that recruit high school, you have guys that recruit college, and you have guys that recruit JUCO, and they just constantly have a list. Okay, here's the top right tackle at the JUCO level. Here's the top right tackle at the high school level, and so on and so forth. I mean, yeah, that would be ideal. It would be great, but at the end of the day, too, because anybody who's ever played college football will tell you, the second you step on campus, they are trying to over-recruit you. They're trying to find somebody better than you. They're not content with you no matter whether you're a 5-star recruit or a walk-on. They're not happy. They want somebody better. But the unfortunate thing with college football in that scenario is most of these coaches, most of the recruiting is done by the coaches. You don't have scouts. Your coaches are the scouts. So you want to do as much of that as you can, but also you got to win in the here and the now.
Yeah, and I mean – I would say most programs have that to an extent. Like you've got the director of recruiting at ECU. You've got his right-hand man, I think, director of scouting. Like these guys are looking at, usually one of them is assigned to JUCO, one of them is assigned to high school. A lot of programs, I'm not sure if ECU does, basically just takes a look at, let's say if you're a Power 5 program, you're looking at the best players, like Savone Revel last year at the Group of 5, trying to get them into the portal. Or preparing for the scenario where, hey, the best players from the American, if they enter the portal, here's who we want. So all that's going on. If you're ECU, you should do the same thing to the FCS. You should do the same thing to the Conference USA, Sunbelt, et cetera. So that's just that should come with any head coach, really. I mean, that's just part of football now, scouting and developing, or scouting and trying to identify specific talent at other levels. Matthew says, is there any chance that IGO will tell John Gilbert who the Hoist the Colors board wants? I think the poll I just did had Sloan around 50%. John Gilbert does not care. I shouldn't say he doesn't care, but he's not going to hire somebody just because that's who the fans want to hire. I mean, he may take it into account. It may be a good thing, but let's revisit. Mike Houston was the overwhelming favorite from the fan base. He got hired. It definitely was not a failure, but I think his tenure did not go how many people thought it would go. most people wanted to hire Joe Dooley for head basketball coach. That happened as well. Dave Hart hired basically the favorites both times. And I would say neither one of them really worked out. Now, you could argue Dooley didn't get enough time. That's fair. We can get into that conversation. We could do a whole show on that. Either way, I would say both of those did not go how ECU fans wanted them to. Mike Schwartz, I would say, was more Gilbert's hand-picked choice. I don't think the fan base really knew who Mike Schwartz was for the most part. And that is to be determined. I would say thus far his tenure has been up and down. The first year was okay. The last year was a disappointment in terms of expectations. So basically what I'm saying is, Philip, it's a crapshoot.
It is. But I think the reason why this question is even brought up is because the era of NIL. Normally if this was 5, 10, 100 years ago, I would have said, no, what does the athletic director care what we think, what we want? Heck with that. But in this era, you have to consider it because at the end of the day, if you bring in a guy and nobody donates to NIL, well, if you don't pay them, somebody else will, right? So there has to be that. But also, I think that John Gilbert has to have a little faith in the Pirate fan base that they're going to donate regardless of who the head coach is. Hopefully the Pirate fans will be excited about whoever he brings in. And I think, hey, we want Joe Salone slightly over Skip Holtz. I don't think there's going to be a huge NIL difference for Salone as opposed to Holtz or vice versa, because that's what the Hoist the Colors message board says. But, look, at the end of the day, John Gilbert's got to make a hire that, look, I'm not saying John Gilbert's on the hot seat, but if he makes a hire and it goes in the crapper, then he could be, right? So he's got to think about his position and his job, and he's going to do what he thinks is best for the university, regardless of what the fans think, what Stephen thinks, what I think, what the high-up donors think.
And the reality is this, look, and this will be our final point before our break, and then we'll come back and we'll look at the American. But, John Gilbert, he signed through 2026, I believe. Winning the press conference is great. He needs to hire a coach who's going to be the best fit and win games. I mean, he has got to get a coach in here who's going to win games. Okay, let's say you hire Skip Holtz, with the old donors, that ends up making a big deal. They get a big NIL push. But is Skip Holtz going to win games with that NIL push? I don't know. I mean, he might. Is Joe Sloan going to come in? Is Garrett Riley going to come in? Are they going to build a good enough staff to win games? I don't know. So they might all sound good on paper until you sit down with them and talk to them and figure out their vision, their plan. Hey, who's your defensive coordinator, Garrett Riley? Who is your defensive coordinator, Joe Sloan? What gives me, we know you can develop a quarterback. What is going to allow you to develop a program? Those are things that John Gilbert has got to sit down and learn from these guys. Otherwise, we're just out there picking the hot name because that's all we really know, Philip. So we'll see, man. It's one of those things that it's fun to speculate about, and for sure we will continue to do that. And we all have our opinions, some right, some wrong, but John Gilbert's got to make that decision with obviously the help of the selection committee and all that, the search committee. So we'll see what happens, but it should be an interesting search. Appreciate everybody's input regardless, including the Hoist the Colors fans. I do value your opinion. All right, let's get a break in. We'll come back. We'll look at the American, wrap up any final questions and more. This is Hoist the Colors.
We're down to the final days of our summer sales event at Greenville Toyota.
Lease new RAV4s, $319 a month. Test drive the redesigned 2025 Camry, all with our advantage.
It's your last chance to save at Greenville Toyota.
Storm season is approaching. North Carolina weather can damage your roof, and before long, a small leak can turn into a big problem. Your home is one of your biggest investments, so protect it with Wells Home Improvements.
We work with all insurance companies for a hassle-free roof installation experience. Call us today and get 10% off your roof installation when you mention this commercial.
252-227-8403 or visit us online at wellshomeimprovements.com. Wells Home Improvements. Local, honest, dependable.
Hey, on the mountain we've got a saying. Get off your...
Show off.
Mountain Dew.
Sawyer's Fun Park in Winterville is now open. With over 40,000 square feet of family fun, daily money-saving deals, and a full-service restaurant, Sawyer's Fun Park is guaranteed to have something the whole family will love. Test your ninja skills on our 2-story obstacle course or head over to one of our 5 rock walls and race your friends to the top. And when you've worked up an appetite in our laser tag arena or our one-of-a-kind ropes course, grab a table over at the restaurant and try our world-famous Southern Monster Fries. Reserve your spot today at SawyersFunPark.com and come join in on the fun.
The best burgers around. Everyone loves a thick, juicy, and fresh burger. Tiebreakers does real burgers better than anybody. And don't forget about the cheese sticks, fresh salads, and more. So don't just go to any burger-themed restaurant chain. It's time to break the chain and eat local. Tiebreakers, burgers and sports at its best.
Everybody loves tiebreakers.
Other restaurants claim their food is fresh and fast, but are they friendly? At Moore's, you're treated like family the minute you walk into their doors. With locations in Winterville, New Bern, Swansboro, Morehead City, and Jacksonville. We've been practicing what we preach since 1945. At Moore's, our barbecue is slow cooked and smoked over real wood daily until it's so tender it's falling off the bone. Combined with our fresh chicken, cooked to order seafood, and homemade fixins, we're sure you'll agree. If it's not Moore's, it's less.
Hurry, the summer savings event is coming to an end. Don't miss your chance.
Enjoy your summer in a new Corolla for just $219 a month or a Highlander for only $399 a month. Got a trade? Get cash for it or trade for a new Toyota.
Hurry into Greenville Toyota today.
We're live with Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game.
Hoist the Johnny Roger!
Now, back to Hoist the Colors.
All right, welcome in. Hoist the Colors final segment here. Get 2 hours tomorrow. We'll have a 2-hour show. Bobby Harvard used to be on Coach Minell's staff as well as a GA and assistant coach. He'll sit down with me and Philip. We'll talk about the search and more. So we'll read more of your comments then. We're going to take a quick look at the American in a second. I wanted to just mention a couple things here. Brian Overton, who was also on rough staffed with Coach Yellock and Bobby, he says Travis Williams, Arkansas defensive coordinator, a candidate to watch. He mentions Gus Malzahn tree so he can get a good OC, NIL experience in the SEC. He interviewed at Troy and Auburn the last 2 years, big-time recruiter and relationship builder. So Travis Williams, a name to watch. He's been at Auburn, UCF, and Arkansas. So keep that name in mind. We'll discuss him a little more tomorrow, Brian. We also have Colin Moore, who asked, how important do you think active college experience in the NIL era is? I see a lot of Bill Clark buzz, and it worries me going with a guy who hasn't been in the NIL arena. Again, we'll address this more tomorrow. My quick thoughts on it, Colin. I definitely would prefer NIL experience. Look, Bill Clark took a program that was canceled at UAB and built them into a winner. So, I mean, you can't deny the guy can coach. That said, he has only coached in the state of Alabama. So for him to go from UAB and Jacksonville State previously to East Carolina, that's a totally different ball game. I'm not saying he can't do it, but that would be a major risk on the Bill Clark front. I know that he's gotten some buzz, but just keep that in mind. All right, again, we'll continue to discuss more of the search. Philip Pilkington producing today. We'll dive into some names tomorrow when we got more time. Really looking forward to hearing Bobby's take on all this as well. Let's take a look around the American before we wrap up shop. Army and Navy still unbeaten, Philip. Army 6-0, Navy 4-0. We do this every week on Thursday. And Army just a really 2 wins away, obviously, from clinching a spot in the title game. They have a bye this week. Tulane unbeaten at 3-0. Memphis, North Texas, Charlotte all 2-1. So it's looking more and more like we could see the Black Knights make the championship. Still a little skeptical of Navy, but Army looking more and more, Philip.
Yeah, you know, the interesting thing going to be with Navy is they're probably going to lose this week. And now that's not a conference game. They're playing Notre Dame. But when a team is undefeated this late in the season and it's not the Kansas City Chiefs or someone who's, you know, used to being undefeated, how do they respond? They're at Navy and then they're home against Notre Dame and then they go to Rice and then they go to South Florida and then they're home against Tulane. So they do get in a tough little stretch here through the midshipmen, and not saying they're definitely going to lose this weekend, but it is a rivalry game. And Notre Dame, you know, Riley Leonard hasn't looked as good as I thought he would, but hey, you know, things are still going pretty good right now in South Bend, with the exception of that one embarrassing loss that they had early in the season. So, you Look, only time will tell, but also, like you said, they've only won 4 conference games to Army 6, so they have a long way to go as far as, just the amount of games they have left to play.
Big game in the league this week. Tulane, which again is 3-0 in the American, they're on the road at North Texas. That is a 12 noon kickoff, 11 a.m. Central Time from Denton, Texas. We know that Tulane can score, and we know that North Texas can score. The over is at 67.5 points. Phillip, are you touching that over?
I like it. If you look at the game last week between Memphis and North Texas, the Tigers won it 52-44. So North Texas does get in these shootouts. They might have one of the worst defenses in the conference, paired with one of the better quarterbacks in the conference. But we'll see if Tulane can help their side of the over. They only scored 24 last week against Rice, but remember they put up 71 on UAB just a few weeks ago.
All right. There's a quick look at the American. Outside of that, not too many huge matchups coming up this coming week. Next week, you also have a lot of the top teams playing the bottom teams. So I think in a few weeks, we'll start to see maybe this stabilize a little bit. But you have Notre Dame and Navy as the headliner. That'll be 12 noon on ABC. Charlotte and Memphis, Tulane and North Texas, as we just mentioned. Of course, Temple at ECU. And then Rice is taking on UConn in a non-conference game. UTSA trying to make it 2 in a row. They go to Tulsa. All right, there's your look around the American. We'll continue to break that down each week. Of course, ECU a little removed from the championship race, so it's not as close to home, but we'll still take a look at it. Tomorrow, we've got Bobby Harward in studio. We're going to have a 2-hour special, 12 noon to 2 p.m. Tune in. Be ready to drop your comments, your candidates. We'll have plenty of time to kill. We won't be as rushed. And we'll also talk ECU and Temple. So look